Hello, everyone, and we are live, episode 37 of the Fitness Business Growth Podcast. I'm here with Brent. How are you, mate?
Hey, not too bad. How are you, man?
Good, thank you, mate. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I've admired Brent's content for a long time. Brent is a sales coach helping fit pros close more deals at higher prices. Today, we're going on the Brent Kromer journey and his advice for up-and-coming fit pros. Cue the intro.
Welcome to the Fitness Business Growth Podcast, a podcast run by gym owners for gym owners. My name is Mitch, and along with Jamie, we are your hosts, and we will be discussing all the important things that you need to run a successful fitness business. From marketing to lead generation to sales to retention to staff and much, much more. So if you are a fitness business owner, then this is for you. We hope you enjoy the following episode, and we will speak with you soon.
And we're back, Brent. How is it in the US today?
Hey, not too bad. That was a really cool intro. You got to connect me with your editing team there. That's beautiful.
Hey, believe it or not, I did it on camera myself.
All right. Well, I'll have to hit you up after this. That's nice.
Absolutely. Well, man, once again, I really do want to thank you for coming on. I do appreciate your time. The reason why this podcast exists, mate, I think to 2015, Jamie, on the journey that I've been on, what do I need to hear and who do I need to hear from? And mate, I consider you to be one of those people. I've really, really enjoyed your content since we connected on Facebook.
I appreciate that, brother. Yeah,
well,
thank
Brent,
you for having me. I'm excited to dig in and workshop some different sales advice for the viewers here.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I start the podcast with this exact question with everyone. If I met you at a party, mate, which is like we're kind of meeting now, and I said, what do you do? What is your response, mate?
You know, it's funny you asked that because my girlfriend Brooke and I, we talk about this actually, because I'm like, I don't know the best way to introduce myself. With us traveling full time, we get asked all the time. I don't know if pickleball's made its way over to Australia yet, but it's
yeah. I've seen it in UFC countdowns, mate. They rave about it to cut weight.
Oh, dude. It's taken the world by storm here. So we play pickleball nightly. It's actually, I just got back a little while ago. And so I'm introducing myself to people every day. I'm like, I need a better one-liner for what I do. So it's a brilliant question. I basically just tell people I'm a business consultant. I scale fitness businesses.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm pretty sure I'm a massive Shark Tank fan, and I'm pretty sure pickleball went on Shark Tank and got a deal on there originally.
Did it really?
To scale their sport league.
Oh, it's so addicting because we can dig into all that. I can talk about pickleball, but it's just such a low threshold as far as skill goes to make an intro, like to make an entry into the sport, and then you ascend rather quickly. But then to like master it takes a little while. I feel like most sports, it's not an easy entry.
It's the best things in life, mate. Simple, start, hard to master, which is like sales.
That's it, man. There's too many consistencies between sales and pickleball.
Well, mate, before our podcast, I learned more about you and your journey scaling your partner's Brooks fitness company. Mate, can you run me through like how that happened? Like what you did, what you changed, and what you implemented, and your journey selling fitness programs before helping other fit pros do the same?
Yeah, man, it's kind of a strange story as to how I got started. I feel like a lot of people got started because they were like just in the space. They were consuming a lot of things on YouTube. They were, ClickFunnels fans. They were like, they love that digital marketing aspect. When I got started, Jamie, I'm not kidding. I had no idea what a ClickFunnel was. I didn't know someone said, dude, you should do ClickFunnels. I said, what is a ClickFunnel? Right. I had no idea anything digital marketing. I had no idea the online space existed. Nothing. None of it was a thing for me.
It's funny, mate, like successful business owners take the business route and digital marketers set up a Facebook ad in one day. Yeah. They launch a campaign and they fizzle fast, right?
Yeah.
So despite your marketing knowledge, despite your sales knowledge, good business fundamentals are absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, I mean, speaking of that, so not to tell a long story long, so I'll keep it brief. But basically, my background is all healthcare. So I was an ICU nurse. I did everything trauma and neuro, so anything in the brain. That's I don't know how censored this is, but gunshot wounds, MVAs, strokes, all the stuff that would really bring harm to this half of your body, right? Was everything that I would do. Popped around. I did some COVID nursing, scaled around. I guess you could say I scaled. The income was crazy, but popped around, met my partner, Brooke, while I was doing travel nursing. I got an MBA in the meantime online while I was doing that. So I have a business foundation that I spent way too much money on. And basically, at that time, she got into fitness contrary to what a lot of people think. 2020 was the time to get a fitness business.
Oh man, COVID. Hey, if you, man, I have 2 physical gyms, right? And we had the same thing. We went online like March 2020.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, you timed it up well, because I'm sure the physical space was difficult for you at the time. And it's funny. I always hear coaches, they say, I survived COVID. And I'm like, you didn't survive COVID. You not the physical space, but online coaches like were thriving when Brooke entered. So basically she entered the market. She was doing okay. She spent $5-6 grand on a coach. Didn't really do anything. And I was like, why is he teaching you this and this? This doesn't.
Can we back up for a second, mate? In terms of COVID, I think it's a great lesson to learn. Like, no matter what is happening in the outside world, your external world, there are always people that win. Yeah. And in our locations for our gyms, we were doing outdoor training at the time, and we never had a better cost per lead, cost per acquisition, because we're the only gym owners in Newcastle running ads. It's an auction site. We're getting impressions for like $5 to reach 1,000 people. Wow. Anyone that knows, it's about $30 in Australia at the moment. So it's a really good lesson to learn that no matter what happens externally, like there's always someone that wins.
That's a beautiful lesson, because if you're solution oriented, when everybody else is running around and panicking, very similar to probably how a lot of the industry is right now, if you're solution oriented and you're looking for, I don't know how big you guys are on like, American football, but yeah. I heard something in a book the other day. It says, does it make sense to avoid receivers that are covered or to look for receivers that are open? And I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And it's like, yeah, you shouldn't avoid specific things. You should look for opportunities. So just like you did there, it's everywhere.
And your partner invested in a coach for $6K, obviously no names. What led to that decision? Did she look at a few coaches, and ultimately, like, why did she pick that coach? And then how was that experience for you guys?
Yeah. So when I was in nursing school, I was good friends with a girl named Alex. And so we moved off after nursing school. We still talked a little bit on like, in our group chat. And I knew she had actually quit nursing to become an online personal trainer. I was like, oh, that's wild. Good for you. Like, I don't really know if there's money in that, but good for you. Right. Never really asked. Yeah. So when Brooke started her business, I was like, I think Alex is doing okay. Maybe just hit her up. I was like, hop on a call with my old college friend and just see if she's got any recommendations. And then Brooke sends me a link. I don't remember what the website was, but it was a website, like a big website. And it was Alex was on the cover. It says how I made 400,000 last year in online coaching. And I was like, pardon? I was like, excuse me?
It's amazing, mate. If you're not in the digital marketing world, you're not in the online world, that number seems impossible until you see it and you know it's true. And then your mind just completely
that's all I could think about for days, because I was still nursing at the time. And, COVID nursing, we were making like 10K a week. So like that was still pretty good, but I'm like, she's doing this. I'm busting my tail. I mean, this sucks. And she's making as much money as I am coaching online. I was like, what is this all about? So anyway, Brooke hired her first mentor. From what I understand, she got the basics, but she didn't really, it's not that his program is not good or bad, right? It's just that she didn't see results. And that, that's the case with any program, good or bad. Some people just don't see results.
I'd love to understand that, mate. I've been in a few programs, and whether they were great, bad, I got a result. I took a key piece of information from each of them. And if I line up those pieces of information, they're all critical into getting me today. So many people are quick to bat out other people's mentorships when it is just, it is ridiculous to think that you pay X amount to a mentor and you're guaranteed success.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to guarantee. And that's why I like to give business owners the benefit of the doubt, because there are very few businesses, I think like very few that are genuinely just bad. Like genuinely just terrible.
The owner has the intention to quadruple your revenue. I love Alex Hormozi. He is a man, God among men, my hero, but that purple book has created some wild guarantees.
Yeah. It, you know, that's a whole separate topic. I was really into that. And the more I dissected the book, the more I took notes. I don't know how I feel about it. But that is a different topic. But yeah, essentially she worked with this mentor. Whether it was her or the mentorship or whatever habit, she got off the ground, but she was maybe 2-3K a month. Okay. She had systems, but she wasn't really, the client acquisition portion wasn't really moving. And at that time it was moving for a lot of other people. So, you know, she was pretty upset. She was bummed out. She asked if she should reinvest into a new coach, and you know, she gave the spouse objection. I was the spouse that she had to consult with. And I give 2 thumbs up. Like if you want to reinvest, if you have the courage to, go for it, if it makes sense.
That word courage is so important, right? Because it's one thing to invest in a coach, have a bad experience, because at that point it's ignorance. You think all coaches work, but to fail and to have the courage to invest again, to not give up and to persist is just truly, truly amazing. And you said something before, not all business owners are bad. I think if fitness business owners just continue down the path, one step forward, you will get there eventually.
Yeah. I mean, you only lose if you give up, right? That's what I tell myself. To this day, when things get tough, I tell Brooke that, I mean, as business owners, it's up and down, it ebbs and flows. Like you see the big fancy things. Yeah, we made $1 million last year, but it's not like it doesn't cross my mind. Some days when I wake up, I'm like, damn, like this is frustrating. You know, you only lose if you give up. So
I'll tell you a quick story, mate. Last night, yesterday was a public holiday in Australia, and all of our Google integrations broke in Go High Level. So we run effectively Gym Launch in Australia. Sure. So we had hundreds of bookings coming through yesterday, and the bookings were going to different calendars. So myself and my head VA stayed up almost all night, making sure those bookings ended up in the right calendars. So here I am smiling today, but as Brent said, shit happens every single day.
Every day. And if you go into it, I know I'm getting off into the weeds here, but if you go into it with the wrong mindset, this is so important to me. Just waking up, crossing your fingers, hoping everything goes smoothly is a losing model. I mean, you will be upset more times than you are not. Wake up, expect there to be a load of shit that you have to shovel, right? And I know that might be graphic for people, but like literally there's going to be problems every single day. And if you hope that there isn't, you're just setting yourself up for a bad day.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Like the more I get into business, the more I coach people, the more I've gone from all you need is leads and sales to you have to manage your expectations. And I don't like the word mindset. I do not like that word.
Yeah.
A mismanagement of expectations will lead to unhappiness and sadness.
Yep. Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. It's just that expectation with anything, right? With anything. If you have specific expectations for how your weekend's going to go, right? And then you're crushed when not everything went perfect. It's no matter what it is in life, but especially business. You have to just go into it expecting things to go wrong. That's what my business partner in real estate told me 2 years ago. He's like, you hope for good days, right? Expect that things are going to go wrong, find the solution, and you'll create a good day. And so that stuck with me for a long time.
I think the issue is, Brent, like you start a business, it goes off, everything's good, and then you go into the valley of despair for about 12 months.
Yeah.
No one sees you in the valley of despair. Then you pop back up your ClickFunnels award, and it's you got lucky.
Yeah. I know that all too well, my friend. So yeah, Brooke had the courage to reinvest, more courage than I did at the time. I'd never invested in myself in that capacity. College, right? But I don't really consider college like investing in online mentorship, right? Although online mentorship tends to be a lot more profitable. She asked if she should invest into another coach. I said yes. We reviewed everything. She did. She was about 15K in the hole at this point, and she was making about $2,000 a month, maybe.
All right.
So not really livable. Livable with with the help of a partner for sure. But thankfully, nursing and organ recovery, all healthcare things that I was doing were doing well. So how I got into help her was basically, I thought I have a business degree. I have, that foundation. I have that knowledge. I was like, I feel like maybe I have some baseline. And then working in nursing, I tell people about this a lot. Working in nursing, working in healthcare, you have to have a lot of very difficult conversations, right? I ask my students this all the time. Like if your best friend, Jamie, if you're at the bar and, you know, I don't take it back a couple of years, right? You're at the bar, you're looking for women and your buddy has bad breath. Are you going to tell him he has bad breath? I hope so, right? It's a good thing to do, but you don't want to have that conversation. So as with nursing, it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit more serious, but like, you don't want to have these terrible conversations, but you have to, right? And so all through nursing, I had a lot of end of life conversations. All through organ recovery, I had a lot, I mean, exclusively daily end of life conversations with family. So I got really good at having like the hard talk.
And talk about expectations, mate. You're delivering news of, hey, you haven't got long left to live. When your internet connection's down, there's worse things that are happening in the world.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It's if you want perspective, and I'm happy that I have it at this point, because I feel like I have a little bit of wisdom in a short span working in organ recovery. Yeah, your problems aren't that bad, man. I mean, you see enough tragic, I mean, every single day, tragic instances where it's, you know, I don't know how graphic you want to be on here, but people
100% transparent. Go for it.
Well, I mean, it's like children drowning. It's you know, teenagers getting in accidents, or people just riding their bike getting hit by drunk drivers. I mean, it's every single day. There's some extreme tragedy, and then you have to have these conversations. You know, after a while, you get good at it.
Yeah.
And so,
whenever my sales guys complain, mate, or they have a rough day of sale fails, no shows, Mitch's partner is a social worker in the hospital, and her job is to console parents after their children die.
Yeah, that's tough.
There's people dying in Newcastle every single day, sudden infant death syndrome. And she is there for an hour consoling the parents, as making sure they get the help that they need to go see the appropriate healthcare, social workers, psychologists, whatever the case may be. If you threw your problems in a pile with everyone else's problems, you take your pile problems back and run away.
Every time, every single time. And so, having that perspective, and it's hard not to have. It's hard to have that perspective if you've not actually done it, because, you know, everybody's, I don't know what the saying is over there, but like, you know, growing up, you don't eat your food. Your parents are like, there's hungry children in Africa, right? Those problems they're not relevant to you because you've not experienced it. But like experiencing things like that does give you a lot of perspective, especially as a business owner.
And I think seeking out, like, to really learn about the world and what's going on will give you perspective and give you a level of gratefulness that you should have every single day just from waking up. So my partner works at Newcastle Courthouse. She is a registrar in the court, and she is in the court when the judge reads out the crimes that were committed by X person against the victim. And these crimes are unspeakable, like unspeakable crimes. And once again, like, we work online at home from the comfort of my own home. It's 9 a.m. Tuesday in Australia, and I'm filming a podcast. Like, life's good, everyone.
And that's where I get myself in trouble with some of the mindset gurus and, you know, the cold plunge queens and stuff, because, you know, like, you can have a tough day, that's fine. But to let it completely derail you is wild to me, because at the end of the day, like you said, I mean, you can't see, but I'm in sweatpants, man. Like, life's good. I just played 3 hours of pickleball. Like, life's not that bad. It's really not. We're working from home and we're selling things online. It's not that bad.
You know, it's funny, mate. All these podcasts that are tactical sales, they end up being woo-woo mindset podcasts, because it's so important. Because if you are to be successful at marketing, successful at sales, there has to be a level of resiliency, and that resiliency should come through a perspective of, like, what you're going through isn't even difficult. Like, the word resiliency shouldn't even be there. It is just like, today sucked, but not as bad as it could have been.
Well, that's why, man, I love Australians, because you guys are just so real. There's just no BS. I mean, it's like a fact. But I read a book. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I don't know if you've read that.
Yeah, Mark Manson.
Yeah, so long ago I read it, but there was one part that stuck out to me in that book where he said in the 1800s, like, if you were working on a farm and you had a bad day, you just had a bad day. And then you chalk it up as today sucked, and then you wake up and hope the next day is better, and that's it. But like, now in the age of the internet. It's like you had a bad day and then you get on TikTok and you're like, oh, they made $1 million. Oh, they're a billionaire. Okay. All right. They had a record month. And it is tough. It can be.
And then you take your magnesium concoction before bed, not sleep.
Yeah. And then do a red light sauna and then cold plunge and then breath work and then bedtime.
Let's get back onto coaching because we've gone really good here. So your girlfriend's launched her business, MBA in business in Australia. That's a master's in business.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens next when you inject yourself into her business?
Yeah, this is where it all comes to fruition, right? So Brooke's business still doing about 2 to 3K a month. I think her best was like 4, but it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I know a lot of business owners can relate to that. It's like you have a good month followed by 3 people canceling and 1 person defaulting on payments, and then you're right back at square one, right? So and that's tough. So what I did was I decided I was going to take a course at Jeremy Minor NEPQ. My buddy had actually bought the course like a year prior, never even opened it. So like it never started the timer. So I gave him half. I said, hey, let's split it. I did his course for like, $600 or whatever it was. I paid him for his course on Jeremy Minor NEPQ. I went through that like 3-4 times, studied it like a maniac. And then I took 8K. I invested into the 3.0.
Okay.
The 3.0 I got within the community. And at that point I was like, all right, well, let me just try. Prior to that, sorry, my timeline's off. Prior to that, I told Brooke because she was crying after losing a sale, which is not good to see your partner like just defeated, right? After they've been spending all this money and just not seeing the results, right? So I was like, well, I have difficult conversations every day. Let me see if it translates to fitness. Hopped on 30 minutes in. I sold a 12-month, $4,000 deal. First call ever. Didn't know anything. Nothing. I knew nothing. And it worked just by asking good questions and being, sympathetic to her situation, connecting with her. But I didn't know anything about sales. So that's when I was like, well, if I can do this, why don't I actually get some sales, fundamentals? Took Jeremy's course, started crushing it for Brooke. Got a 1-to-1 mentorship from a meme challenge, which is funny. I was telling
Can we back up on there? So NEPQ3, that you're in a community with absolute some of the best closers in the world. And then the 1-on-1 mentorship was literally spending time with Jeremy.
So it wasn't with Jeremy, it was with Sean Ray, who was like the head of their recruiting at the time. So yeah, it was talk about networking and in 3.0, I have friends to this day. It was 2 years ago. Friends to this day, I still hop on Zoom with and connect. I networked like a maniac. Like anybody who would get on the role plays that was good, I was shooting them a DM. Hey, dude, you want to do some private role play? Anybody who is better than me, I would just reach out to them. And like lo and behold, we created a community and we were role playing with, I'm from a town in Ohio with 1 stoplight. I'd never been out of the country. I had only been out of the state like once. So like the fact that I was role playing with people in Australia and Dubai and, Africa and all these different places, I was like, this is the craziest thing. But I was, up late, up early on these role plays with all this network of friends, just relentlessly for months and months. So we all became pretty good. And I think everybody from that group actually has fared pretty well in the business world.
So you jumped on the first call and you sold the person $4,000, 12 months. I kind of had a similar experience where I don't like the word naturally good at sales, but I just, whether it's, I was selling people, but I didn't actually know why it worked.
Sure.
And then you go through the course, you meet mentors, you think, oh, so I was doing that on accident.
Yes.
But maybe I was doing it at the wrong time, right?
Exactly.
So that's really, really interesting. So you had the mentorship, you were role playing. What was the biggest thing you took from that back into Brooke's business?
Well, it's just the best thing that you can have as a closer for everyone out there, whoever wants to know the secret, it's just flow. That's all it is flow. And flow is a combination of a few things. Flow, it to me, is a combination of cadence and tonality. If you have good flow, think about Matthew McConaughey. He's got the best flow of anyone because he's just so smooth and he can transition really well within his process, within anything. right? So if you have good flow, if your transitions are smooth, you can carry a conversation, you reduce or minimize the amount of awkward interactions, you're going to sell a lot of people, even if you have minimal skills, even if you're not always asking the right questions, even if you're not hitting the best consequence questions or future pacing or any of that. If you have flow, you will be fairly decent at sales.
So flow and cadence would keep it as a conversation, not a sales conversation. And that is the big difference.
That is the difference, yes. Because if it sounds like a sales call, you're going to spike buyer resistance, right? That's Jeremy's thing. And I heard this from another mentor, Michael Dunleavy. If you haven't seen or heard from him, he's Australian as well. He's just wonderful. I always have to quote whoever I learn things from. I have to give everyone their props. But he mentions like the moment that a prospect labels you in their mind as a salesperson, everything you do is justified in that exact way. Of course, they would say that they're a salesperson.
There's a big filter. All of a sudden, you're the untrustworthy used car salesperson.
Yep.
Even if you have the best intentions in mind, that's how they view you.
And the fastest way to create that filter is to sound salesy, to sound scripted, or to be choppy in your process.
So can you give me an example of sounds salesy?
Yeah, Jamie. So, well, my next question, that's a big one. My next question. Oh, so you have a list of questions.
Imagine if you're talking to your best friend, do you want to go to the pub? And my next question is,
yes, exactly.
Get food? Like,
exactly.
Your friends look at you like you're crazy.
Yep. Or, even little things like where it's like, hey, at the beginning of this, or, at the end of this call, you can give me a yes, you can give me a no, but no, don't give me a maybe, right? Like, would you go up to a girl at the bar and say, hey, would you use that phrase? That's crazy.
That is the best example. That's the best analogy for that question I've ever heard.
You wouldn't use it in real life scenarios. So if you use this on a sales call, you're doing things that are triggering, and they might not realize it right away. It's going to accumulate typically, but they're going to come to the conclusion that you have maybe not their best interest in mind. And the moment that happens, you're done.
And they start to feel like this guy is setting me up for a logical trap.
Yes. Yep. They'll start to, like I said, they'll start to analyze everything that you say, everything that you ask, and they'll squint their eyes a little bit. Like, why are you asking that? Why do you care? Right. And you're done. I mean, you're done. You could shut the call down. Doesn't matter how good you are at objection handling.
In terms of giving people credit, like I've learned a ton from Matt Ryder. Obviously, you would have heard of Matt Ryder.
That's incredible.
There's a fitness sales tutorial on YouTube. It's a 27-minute call, 7,000 views. I probably watched it. Yeah.
I studied so much, Matt. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm 300 out of those 7,000 views. And I used to listen to it before I go into like a high ticket sale close. Like that 27 minutes was probably the most impactful thing that I've ever watched on sales. And there's certain like what sparked your interest? Like why now? And it's just actually amazing. Obviously, going down the paid mentorship route is best, but there is so much amazing free content out there if you know what you're looking for.
I thought that video was unlisted for a long time, I think, because I had to have that sent to me by someone specifically, but maybe it is public. That video, I studied an unbelievable amount. So I might match you there on the 300, just me and you as all the views there.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, two fans, but yeah, Matt's a genius. Everybody from that team's incredible. So getting that mentorship from Sean, I mean, it took me from decent. I mean, I skipped a line. I really did, and that I will be forever grateful for that.
Yeah, I remember when I started doing high ticket selling, I messaged the owner and he says, "Why do you want this job?" I said, "I think I'm pretty good at the sales, but we'll see." And then I read his script, which I could be wrong, but I believe it was written by Matt, heavily influenced by NEPQ.
Yeah.
And I read this script and it was an absolute masterpiece.
Nice.
And then everything clicked of like, oh, so I was doing that then, but didn't realize that works here. Ask this question here. Like, why would you ask a trial close? Why would you pitch the price before the actual pitch? And I went from unknown to being one of the best closers in Australia, and it's got nothing to do with me. It was like amazing marketing, and then this script, like it was just, and the mentor I had, Andrew Poulton, was just it was the single biggest thing in my life that has led me to where I am today. Was going through that sales course and having this script.
I was going to say, give yourself some credit, because you can give that script to 10,000 people and they probably won't get the same results, right? Like, scripts don't sell people.
I'd love your opinion, mate. Like, the reason why I saw this script for what it was is because I had prior experience selling like an absolute bulldozer, just hammering over people.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I thought, I want to sell like that.
Yeah. It's the thing with me is I don't know any different. I've not been, I mean, admittedly, I don't claim to be this guru that's been around the space for a super long time. I think being fresh in the space with like a different perspective is kind of what allowed me to excel. I've been in the space since 2020. Like, I'm like very, very green. You know, I wouldn't even be a senior guy on most sales teams yet. Like, we've been able to create something special. And, you know, I think it's a style. I think I was fortunate to come into a good style, but you have to think about it like, again, I'm giving too many sports references here, but like boxing, right? Like, if you watch any Floyd Mayweather, he's not a super offensive boxer, yet he's the best boxer. I mean, I don't care to debate this at all with anyone, so don't come at me for I don't care, right? But he is you know, known as the best or one of the best boxers to ever live, and he's not a very offensive guy, right?
He just doesn't make mistakes.
He doesn't make mistakes, but he guides the fight, but you wouldn't really know it, right? Like, he's the one leading the dance, but he doesn't look like he's doing a whole lot. He's just very defensive and just waits for a moment, and that's sales. Like, you don't have to be in the offensive the entire time. You can kind of wait for your moment, and then like when it presents, like, you can hit that soft jab and then follow up with a few good ones, and that's sales.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. One, because I like it. Two, because I'm a massive fight fan.
Yeah.
And Floyd, he just draws out their attacks. He just sits back. It looks like he's doing nothing from rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then all of a sudden he wins the next 9 clearly. And Manny Pacquiao didn't know what the hell happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, relate that to your sales process. Like, it doesn't seem like you're doing anything super tactful until you draw that out, and then you hit them with a consequence question out of nowhere. That's your right hook. And it's like, you just waited and set yourself up for that the whole entire call. Like, sales should not sound like a sales call.
And because you haven't built any resistance, when you ask that consequent question, Brent's a real human being who's genuinely interested in my best interest and cares about my life. Impact positive, impact negatively.
Exactly. So just wait for your moment. Don't be so high energy. I think a lot of people were really thrown off when they sign up for our coaching, because like, I have clips in our course of me on like real sales calls, like doing every part of the script, because I don't want people to ever think that I just like wrote this script and, you know, it was all theory. So I still take like a couple sales calls a month even to this point, just to like break down my calls to my team or to my clients.
I love that so much, mate, because very, very few sales gurus put out live sales call recordings.
Yeah.
And going back to Matt Ryder, like, you watch that clip of that fitness sales tutorial, no one on earth can question his authority.
No. And then that's why I respect that so much.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to ever, and I always make, you know, poke fun, but I'm like, when's the last time your mentor actually ran this challenge or actually hopped on a sales call? Right. So that's why I like to stay relevant in that capacity. And then I let my clients, I break down my own calls where I make mistakes on calls to my clients, and I tell them my thought process behind every question.
Yeah. I break down our sales guys' calls live on my profile. But just for you, mate, I'm going to whip out some of my own.
All right. I want to see it. Tag me in it so we can jam out on some call reviews there.
The thing about listening back to calls, mate, whether you sell them or you don't, it is very hard to listen to. And I've never listened to one of my own calls where I think that was perfect. There is a mistake in every single call for me personally.
Yeah. You got to listen at time and a half. you gotta filter out some of that, but I can't listen to myself at 1x speed. So I hope anybody who's listening here has got this at like 3.5x.
I'm getting married in 6 weeks, mate, but I'm afraid my partner might not say I do, because I listen to call recordings in the car.
That's going to be the thing that does you in.
Yeah, her mum's going to stand up and object in the middle of the wedding. No more sale call recordings in the car, Jamie.
I can't take this. You put it in writing, Jamie.
Well, mate, you've come a long way in such a short period of time. What is the push-pull method?
Yeah. So that's it's fitness is weird, right? I think sales in general, I'm finding that our script is actually more applicable than I ever would have imagined outside of fitness. So that's why we've actually expanded beyond just fitness to health coaches. That's, you know, I know we were both saying it, but that is mindset coaches. That's behavioral health. That is lifestyle coaches. That's all things that have to do with mind, body health, anything. Because I find that it's 100% universal in that aspect.
Yeah, there's a problem they need to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to walk them through your push-pull method to help them see the problem,
Yep.
and then understand that, hey, this is the bridge, this is the solution.
Yep.
And that's so powerful, man, because if you're selling someone, it's having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's having a conversation. Like, it's not one script for one person. It is just a framework of like, this is how you draw things out of people, and this is how you help them see the light.
That's just it. So in essence, and I'm happy to break it down, give examples, do all of that for the push-pull process. But the push-pull process, what it does is it assumes that people that are on a call with you have made fundamental mistakes leading up to that call around their health, nutrition, and fitness, right? It's a safe assumption because you're selling something health related and they saw an ad or reached out to a message that had them interested enough to get on a call with you, right? So it's a fairly safe assumption, and that the 0.1% that get on calls that have zero problems, it weeds them out immediately.
I think salespeople, like people that don't understand sales, I think that salespeople are mind tricking people. They booked a call, they're on the phone, they have a problem.
They do, and the extent of that problem is probably it's like an iceberg, right? They know they have a symptom, which you know, we talk about this, and I don't claim to have coined this entire concept, but it's like nursing, right? If somebody comes in with a fever, that's fine. You have a fever, but something is causing that fever. You're not just febrile for no reason. There is something, some type of infection going on somewhere in the body. Okay. So because you're tired, that is a symptom. Tired is a symptom of something else going on. Your cardiovascular health is terrible. Okay. So that's a deeper rooted issue. Let's talk about that. Right. So you have to kind of, and I know you know this, but for the viewers out there, you have to meet people where they're at. If they only know of the symptom, start with the symptom and slowly peel back the layers and uncover more of that iceberg, and allow more and more of it to surface as you go through the call so they can realize the extent.
And it's so important because they say the symptom and you know the root cause, and you being the fitness professional, you want to help them in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Straight to the cause. They don't care about your solution.
Yep.
But as you said, mate, it's a beautiful way to say it. Like, you need to pull back the layers until they see the root cause.
Mm-hmm. They have to have the light bulb moment. They have to have that moment where they're like, oh, wait a minute. Do you think this is going on? It's like, just maybe.
Perhaps. Maybe. Potentially.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's just explore. Maybe it is going on. So the push-pull process, pushing and pulling, right? So if you think about us, Jamie, guys, if you can imagine me and Jamie here at a ballroom dance, right? Hands on each other's shoulders. There's a little bit of space in between us, right? The push-pull process is a dance. You're going through the sales process, and there's going to be moments where there's more space in between you two, okay? So sometimes that's by design. Sometimes that's not intentional, and you have to test and see kind of why there's space there, right? So a poll question would be, I want to facilitate a moment where you can just be honest, right? If you want to call it a quote unquote safe space, I want to create a space where you're comfortable and you trust me enough to share something that maybe you haven't shared for a long time. Okay.
Can I get an example of a poll question, please?
Yeah. So, okay, Jamie, how long did you say you've been struggling with this?
Since before I was married.
Before you were married, are we talking like high school or like a couple of years? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, when I met my partner, probably about 20 years ago.
20 years. Jamie, that's a long time, dude. So spending that 20 years, and then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this out with tone and cadence, spending that 20 years like struggling, you know, to really have that confidence and to feel like yourself, like has that spilled over into other aspects of your life?
Yeah, like just not confident with my family, like just it's beautiful.
How do you mean by that?
Well, it's like summer in Australia and the kids want to go to the beach, and I just like I want to take them because I love them, but I'm just every second I'm at that beach, I feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, like thoughts or like physically?
I get anxiety going there.
Oh wow. Okay. So you do feel like it is starting to spill over into some other aspects of your life then?
Yeah.
So that would be a poll. And I would continue if it felt appropriate to ask. And as far as like your marriage, do you find it kind of showing some symptoms within that as well, or your job, or, you know, your family, anything else? So like, if you give me the door, I'm going to explore.
I think people may have missed it there, Brent, but you lowered your tone, you slowed down, and you seemed really concerned. And it was a concerned tone, which draws that out, which I guess you would reference your pull method.
Yeah. So and that's where I usually, like, whenever I'm pulling is where I start to use my hands a little bit more. And I'm like, well, hold on. You mentioned that this has been going on 20 years.
Yeah. I think it'd be really powerful, mate, if you ask that question the completely wrong way, just so fit pros can see the difference.
Sure. So basically, if I was just like, okay, Jamie, how long's this been going on? Because that is, by the way, that can be a common question in a script. And a lot of people are probably hearing that like, oh, I asked that question. But here's the difference. So if I were to ask that, okay, Jamie, how long's this been going on?
20 years.
Whoa. Okay. Wow. Well, you know, as far as like a coach, and have you like really thought about like, you know, or why is this important to you now then? Right. Or they're just going to go on to the next question.
Yeah. And that is an interview process you just took me through, versus talking to a friend about a very vulnerable emotional moment I'm having in my life. And you said the exact same thing. It's actually amazing just how much flow, as you mentioned, cadence and tone really, really matters.
Yeah, exactly. It's that flow where you just kind of combine all the different aspects and just give a shit. Like, just care. Like, Jamie just told me he's been struggling with this for 20 years. Like, but you have to realize like the weight of that. Like, that is a lifetime that Jamie has spent struggling with X, Y, and Z. And I have to, if I brush past that, he'll continue to do. Like, when you said 20 years, you didn't say it with a lot of conviction. You're just like, 20 years.
Yeah, it's a throwaway comment. It's a way that I protect myself from saying I've been overweight and embarrassed for 20 years.
Brilliant way of, I couldn't have said it better. It's a way of protecting yourself, right? So people will do that throughout calls. They'll be like, you know, I just want to lose, I don't know, 100 pounds. You're like, you just said that like it was like just any old goal.
Yeah, when you know that person wakes up every morning, I still give a shit, mate, about results. I hate the idea that people think I love sales. No, I love helping that person, as you said, have that aha moment. Like, fuck, like I have to do something about this.
Yep.
My favorite way, Brent, to talk about cadence and flow and tone with my guys is with a trial close question. And at the end of our script, once we go through a pitch, so we tell like 28 gym memberships, for example. And it's like, you can say, do you think this could like potentially get you to your goal? Or you can say, do you think this can get you to your goal?
Yeah. Australians, man, not that, I mean, your tonality is phenomenal. Australians in general, you guys, what it is that you do with your voice inflection is so good. I mean, seriously, it is.
I learned that from Andrew Poulton, and it's like, just to like lower your tone to let something sink in, and then upwardsly inflect if you want to question, a questioning tone, or to bring out an objection. But that question followed with, did anything resonate or stand out with you? So based on what you said, I fully understand that you want to train 3 days a week and eat food that you can enjoy with your family. But did anything else resonate with you? And I think they are the two biggest examples for me personally that really improved my tone. Because that trial close part of the call, obviously it's upstream, handle the objections, but you can fix a lot of things in that trial close once you start looping people.
When you say trial close, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, so a trial close for me would be like, so I've just pitched them the product. I've got some reassurance they want what they want, that we want what they have. And then when I trial close someone, I'm trying to bring out any potential objection before I give them the cost. So for example, if I'm selling a 28-day gym challenge, does that make sense? Yeah, it's great. However, week 3 of that 28 days, I'm going away on holidays. Can I freeze and then come back after? And if I don't bring that out before the price, that's a logistical objection of why they might put it off.
Yeah.
Right. So I try and draw out everything before the price. And for me, the fit pros that I coach, that is the biggest thing. They pitch, price, do you want to buy?
Yeah, that's
yeah. And I actually find like they're simple, like most things that come up in trial closes, they're logistical objections. Like they actually exist in the real world. They matter. Like, hey, like, yeah, that's fine. It sounds great. Can I potentially pay on Thursday? Yes, of course you can. But like people would be embarrassed to say that after the price.
Yep. No, that's exactly what we do. We do a twist on it when we like to go for no a lot. After reading the book, Start With No by Jim Camp, it massively inspired our sales process. And then a lot of mentorship with Michael, who really subscribes to the no-oriented questions. But
so Michael's Australian, mate. I've never heard of his name before.
Yep. So for those listening, I always give Michael a lot of shout outs. Michael Dunlevy, Dunlevy. He actually has a sales coaching process for those outside of, fitness and things like that. Cool. Very talented. I had a podcast with him that I did very early on. Don't judge my podcasting skills at that point, but that was to this day, that podcast is 5 times bigger than my second biggest. People love it. He's a genius. So instead of, and not suggesting that either way is right or wrong, there are so many ways to close deals, guys. We just going for no-oriented questions really helps during that process. So it's like, okay, now with the process that we laid out, Jamie, were there any red flags, with the process that we talked about? Anything that made you, kind of feel like maybe this isn't the right program for you?
Mate, I loved no-orientated questions.
Yes.
Never split the difference.
Oh, beautiful.
By Chris Voss is literally the most impactful book I've read for sales.
Yep,
I've told the story before, but I think it's a great one. I tore my ACL. I was jumping on a plane going to Singapore, had a crutch, and logistically, I was at the front of the plane. So I would have to go to the back of the plane to use the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And I said to the lovely host, and the first class bathroom was in like a matter of meters.
Yeah.
And I said, excuse me, like due to my knee, due to me having a crutch, would you be opposed to me using the first class bathroom?
Yeah.
And what type of person wouldn't say no in that scenario?
Yes, I'm opposed, cripple, get to the back. Yeah. What kind of person? So we like no-oriented questions. Any reason you feel like maybe this process wouldn't work for you, like the way it is for everyone else, or that you wouldn't see the same results that other people are seeing? A lot of no-oriented questions. Was that confusing? No, no-oriented question. Like,
that is such a great one. It was that confusing because confused people do not buy.
Exactly.
And if people are confused, they literally need to think about it.
Yes, always. And most think about it objections are produced by the salesperson. So no-oriented questions, and people are probably wondering why do you want to get people to say no? And then I'll explain the push part of the process so I don't leave the viewers hanging here. But no-oriented questions, what they do is they allow some autonomy, right? Autonomy is the ability to make your own decision. So what it does is it allows autonomy at the end of a sales process where most salespeople don't feel comfortable allowing autonomy, right? It's like, again, I give a lot of relationship references. It's like the guy who's very self-conscious that doesn't let his partner go out and do things because he's self-conscious that she'll wander off elsewhere, right? So salespeople, if you are very self-conscious about your process and you want to like hold them in tight and get them to the close as fast as possible, it's because there's some insecurities in your process. I want clients to say no. I want them to feel like they have autonomy and that they have a voice and an opinion in this process, that it's not just one-sided. And so
you're comfortable drawing out a concern because you're confident in your process that you can handle that concern with love, kindness, respect, and help that person see, hey, it's probably not a concern.
It's that, and it's just that I just want to know the truth. That's all I care about, right? I want to know the truth because what I don't want is of course I don't want to lose a sale, but I also don't want to lose the opportunity to help someone because of something so simple, like you said. I couldn't get started. I don't get paid till Friday, and I didn't want to say so. It's so simple, and a lot of sales are missed because you just didn't get the real truth at the end of the call, and that's sad.
Yeah, and mate, I've had calls that I haven't closed, and it's kept me up at night.
Yeah. Yep.
What did I say? What didn't I say? Did I ask a question the wrong way? Because that person with 100 pounds to lose wakes up the next day with 100 pounds to lose, and not only are they're probably in a worse place.
Oh yeah,
they've already had that potentially embarrassing phone call. Like they don't want to go through that process again.
No. And they probably won't. They'll avoid it, even though, sometimes it's not you. It's just that they weren't ready. I tell two quotes, right? One, we can only facilitate change. We can't force it, right? We just can't. And if they're not ready for it, then how can we facilitate it? So that's probably what happened on those calls. So don't beat yourself up. I tell people that all the time. Like, some people just are not ready, and it's for reasons that are deeper than what we can uncover in 60 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
The other one, I have a funny quote that I said to a client a long time ago. I closed the deal. It was not received particularly well. So the fact that I closed this for anything is great. I'm not saying to use this on a call, but basically it was that same situation. Somebody who had massive weight to lose, extremely unhappy and depressed. And we got to the end and she wasn't willing to even get creative with the budget or to even look into different options. And so I told her, I was like, hey, listen, when we get off this call, Jamie, like, nothing changes for me. Like, my life will go on exactly the way that it is. Right. But unfortunately, the exact same thing is true for you. And I just didn't say anything there. So, but unfortunately, the exact same thing is true for you. Your life will go on the exact same way that it has up to this point. And
saying that and sitting in silence would have been so difficult.
Oh, I just sat, and she received it, and she was like, it hit, and she was like frustrated for a minute, and then she like kind of let the weight of that settle, and we had a nice mature conversation, and she was willing to get creative at that point. But it was like,
yeah. And to say that to someone you've had on the phone for 27 minutes, there is such a level of respect and a rapport built, because you haven't spent 27 minutes building buyer's resistance.
Yeah.
Taken them down a path. It is so clear that you care about them.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, it is your moral obligation to have you said, have that hard conversation.
Yep.
And there's a difference between being nice and kind.
Mm-hmm.
If you're nice, you let your friend with the smelly breath go to the bar.
Exactly.
Kind, you will tell them.
Yep.
And you're the uncomfortable person in the situation. That is being kind, and that is having the tough conversation at the end of the phone call.
And even if she didn't sign up, what do you think she was going to think the next day when she's rolling out of bed, uncomfortable, knees hurt? Just look, every time she looks in the mirror, she's going to repeat that phrase. And not that I wanted to bring her, emotional harm or anything like that, but it's like, sometimes, whether it's with us or with anyone else, like, I hope, or would have hoped, that she got the help, that she needed. And if I was the asshole that had to do, that had to say that to get her over that line, so be it. But I may have saved a life in the process, or at least some relationships and some heartache.
You said something really important before. We can only facilitate change. We can't force it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand that, then your belief around sales should change, because we're not being pushy. No. We're not tricking people. We're not getting one over on someone when we sell them. We are generally helping them facilitate change and uncover a problem that lady has probably had in her life for 20 years and is impacting her ability to go to the beach with her kids.
Yep.
However, she just says 20 years.
Yep.
20 years.
Just brush it off. Just 20 years. So it's sad when you think about it. So there's a perfect segue into why we push people away, right? Why I want to create space. So if I just pulled you in, Jamie, that's the pull process. But now if I pull you in and I smother you, what happens?
Yeah. When you gave her time to think and allowed her to sit with that thought. Mm-hmm. And quite often salespeople, when they smother, they just yep.
And with that too, like a pull question is, again, where we're probing, we're getting the emotional consequence and the depth of their situation. We're allowing them to kind of say some things that maybe they haven't verbalized or expressed in a long time, and that's great. But if we keep that cadence and we keep pulling, again, another relationship reference. If this guy is all over you at the bar, this guy you just met is just all over you, can't keep his hands off you. It's like, get away, dude, or this girl, or whatever the situation is. It's like, I need some space. Well,
and I guess if you pull, you can make someone feel absolutely hopeless because they haven't done it for 20 years. When you want them to have some buy-in, which is going to result in them making an emotional decision, justifying with logic, less refunds and a better client.
Yes, 100%. And so to avoid being that person that's smothering somebody, I want to create some space. And it's like that teeter-totter effect. So what I would do after a pull is there's always a push. Okay, great. Now that you've been vulnerable with me, that's great. Now I'm going to create a little bit of space, because back to what I said earlier, there's a fundamentally flawed decision-making process for people who do not have, whether it be logistical or, emotional, they have a flawed process that's led them to being on a call with you, right? That's led them to being overweight or unhappy. That's whether it's a flawed thinking process or eating whatever it is. Okay. So those types of people don't necessarily have the intrinsic motivation to always take action. When I'm selling B2B, when I'm selling my program, or when my closers are selling our program, or whatever it is, B2B, you're speaking with someone who probably wants to take action because they're a business owner. B2C is not the same paradigm. These people have not taken action. So I have to get them to make micro commitments and take micro actions along the way if I'm going to expect a big decision at the end.
Yeah. And when you're selling B2B, there's typically a tangible ROI involved.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, when we're selling fitness, we're selling hopes and dreams to a person that has had that hope for the last 20 years. It is incredibly rewarding to help that person see the light.
Yep. And so a couple examples of like a push, right, is, again, I gave that reference of you and I dancing. I want to create some space now. If I push you away, there is space between us. You have two options. You can stay there and it's awkward and the space remains between us, or you can step back in. Okay. So you either stay put or you step back in. So I am testing the situation by giving a push. What are you going to do, Jamie? Because if I push you away and I say, well, I don't know, Jamie, it just, based on the conversation, I just don't get the impression that this is like a top priority for you at the moment. One, that's a no-oriented question. And two, that's a push. No, it is a top priority. Why would you say that? Right? That's you filling the space. That's you coming back, you pushing me back. I want that. I want you to push me back.
The best example I used for a push question, I got it from Matt Ryder, and that great fitness sales tutorial video was like, so like, you don't really have to do anything about it. Like, you could just keep going down the same path. So why now?
Yeah.
And the girl gets visibly upset. Like, I have to do it now. Like, I have to, there's no other option. And when someone says that, that is creating real urgency and not using an action taker discount.
Yep. That's it to a T. So what you're doing is, you're encouraging them to, there should be a fire. They should want change. So you're producing that. And if they stay out there, they stay at a distance and they don't push back at all, that's an issue. And that requires further investigation, because if you drag them through the call, you cannot expect them to magically sign up at the end.
And if the one-off does happen and they do magically sign up, that is where your refund rate goes through the roof, because people will avoid conflict at all costs. So once again, like, I love that. It's my favorite line of the podcast. We facilitate change. We don't force change. And if you do happen to force it, like good old-fashioned bulldozers, it leads to a very short sales career, lots of refunds, and an unhappy coaching department when their clients aren't bought in.
Yes. And you're going to have, again, more compliant clients, and they're going to be happier. You're going to be happier. There's going to be alignment from the beginning. So I think that's the most crucial aspect of that.
So Brent, what is your tough question? I know. What is your number one piece of advice for fit pros that want to go from closing an 8-week challenge for $297 to a 12-week challenge for $3,000?
My biggest piece of advice for that is it's not hard when you're selling a dream to sell low ticket, right? You can sell low ticket fairly simple just by making a big promise. Okay. But you can get the most LTV out of a client. You can build the best relationship with a client and produce the best results with a client when you uncover the truth behind why they're in the position that they are. So if you don't just tackle the surface level thing that's nice and easy, the lowest hanging fruit, if you actually go beyond that, you will get people to pay more to stay with you for 12 months, which is the most common program that we sell, 12 months. And that leads to more referrals, more re-signs, and again, like a massively higher LTV per client. So take your time and do the research.
I watched one of your videos the other day. It was great in regards to every fit pro thinks they need more leads, and sometimes that's true.
Yes.
But often they need a higher LTV. If you sell longer programs at higher prices, it makes less sales calls, less onboarding, less delivery, and a much more profitable company with happy customers that get results. And that's the dream.
That's last thing I'll leave you guys with. If you're selling short-term programs, you have to think how often you're turning your roster over, right? I just onboarded somebody into our program the other day. He has a 4-month program. I said, buddy, you're turning your entire roster over every 4 months. All new faces, all new goals. Wouldn't it be easier to work with those same 50 people over the course of a year? Get to know them, get referrals from them.
And if your acquisition breaks for 4 months, your business is gone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's toast.
I know we've run late, mate. I really appreciate your time. I end this podcast with every question. What's one question that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Let me just what inspired me to hop on the call with you today? There we go. That's one I like to ask everyone.
What inspired you to hop on the call with me today?
Yeah. And what about my content? What about me reaching out to you? What inspired you to want to do a podcast with me?
I truly have admiration and respect for people that have walked the walk. And for me, that's the highest level of a coach. Someone who has been in the hot seat, that has heard those objections, that had those tough days, that had those good days. Because only then, in my opinion, as a coach, you have the perspective to help other people overcome it. And Brent, you're just not one funnel away. It's the biggest lie told in the internet marketing world.
It is.
And when you walk the walk, you realize that.
Yeah. So
and my friend have done that.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. This has been a phenomenal interview. If you ask that question, get a little bit of market research in while you're at it. Why not, right? I love asking people why they want to speak to me, or what to encourage them to get on calls. So could be a little market research for you.
Really, really appreciate your time. Have a lovely, lovely day. Thanks for hopping on, mate.
Jamie, take care, man.